This has been the weirdest September 11th in American history since 2002. The first issue of Red Hood's new solo series was released today, only for it to be cancelled by DC because the author, Gretchen Felker Martin, put out some racy comments about Charlie Kirk, the one and only time I will utter his name, after he was shot yesterday at a rally of his on September 10th, 2025. And this is such a weird story, not just because I don't cover stuff like this at all, but also because just a few months ago, content creators swore up and down that you couldn't even utter the word died without being shadow banned. You have to say unalived. And yet now, everyone and their grandmother is trying to make a buck off of a public shooting. But also, I'm not even going to go into the details about the shooting because there aren't any out there. As of now, over 24 hours since it happened, the shooter hasn't been caught, and there's been no definitive motive or reasoning stated whatsoever, despite the misinformation that the Wall Street Journal wants to publish randomly. And yet, there's a group of people, mainly politicians, coming out of it with a belief of why this was done. And those conclusions that are being drawn are painting the way that this is being treated as a strictly political action. And that's led to a lot of false equivalencies made about what occurred yesterday on that Utah college campus. But that's not really the focus of what we're talking about here. Prior to her posts on Blue Sky, Felker Martin has been vocally open about her political stances in both her Blue Sky as well as her published work, long before she was hired by DC to pen this Red Hood comic. So it's not as though they are unfamiliar with her stances. Also, not to mention that this whole controversy is coming hot off the heels of Felker Martin getting heat long before Red Hood even released for apparently not reading other ongoing Batman stories, as if that's a crime. Like every spin-off writer for Batman has to be deeply aware of some event that's occurring, as well as her being touted as the anti-Semite of the week, which is an entire can of worms that involves a rabbit hole going way too deep that I don't really want to do right now. I'm not surprised that DC preemptively rolled over and showed their belly by firing her, canceling her series, and even offering refunds from comic book shops as if they were preemptively expecting a controversy. But by doing so, they only drawed much more attention to it. Again, this happened on Blue Sky, not the Hell site. I'm pretty sure that like maybe 100 people would have known about this if they just ignored it. This whole thing reminds me of when the Dixie Chicks got backlash for criticizing the Bush administration, which is an insane poll in 2025. Granted, their statement was a lot tamer and had a backlash that lasted for years for some reason, which I don't think is going to be the case for Felker Martin at all. I just think it's insane that the idea of an artist having an opinion on not an ongoing war or a historical event, but whether or not they felt bad that someone died is ridiculous. Say what you will, but this is actual moral policing and censorship. However, I am surprised by who's offended and why. I only heard about all of this by seeing it in my YouTube subscriptions tab, since a few of what I'd consider normal comic book channels are covering this, and all of it's in the exact same way. I don't like to talk about politics, but the guy had a family, and anybody who isn't sad about this is a bad person. Most of these comic creators haven't even taken the 20 minutes necessary to actually read the damn issue. I read it. It was fine. It's just really funny how this community has spent well over a decade proclaiming that they don't want politics in comic books or any other nerd space. There's this very loud group who wants these spaces to be strictly apolitical, completely devoid of any real world issues. You know, until there's a popular sentiment that doesn't align with theirs. Can't believe I'm saying this, but free speech does not start and end with your feelings. Dude, if 18-year-old me heard me say that, he'd fucking flip out, man. The absurdity of this situation as we get further and further away from the actual point really reminds me of Dave Chappelle's best joke. I forget which special it is, but it was long before his Netflix era, back when he had Chappelle's Show, where he satirizes and pokes fun at how much the media and audiences expect celebrities to weigh in on tragedies in order to give them some sort of direction, placing them on a pedestal as if they're going to be the ones to make it okay.
Where is Job?
Obviously, he wasn't talking about something as dangerous or heavy as rampant political violence, something that I don't think the 90s and early 2000s would be able to fathom that we've dealt with for far too long. Thousands and thousands of deaths that were completely preventable, and I think that that's the real issue here. To some people, September 10th was a step too far. It was the final straw. But for most Americans who've been paying attention to the uprise in gun violence, This was just another unfortunate day. One that somehow, ironically, led to Jason Todd being killed again. I can't wait for in like 5 years when this becomes like a fucking factoid that a bunch of comic book YouTubers are gonna ramble on about.
Manga Dio, the insanely popular, insanely insane anime, is also available as a laugh-packed manga, and it's only from ADV Manga. Featuring the original comics that started the Azumanga craze in Japan, it's page after page of the not-so-ordinary adventures of your favorite high school cuties. Azumanga Dio the manga